interviews with some real news and some fake news. So I think we have some reporters up here in the front. And what I'd ask is that if you're a local reporter from Michigan, raise your hand first. I'd like to take your questions first, and then I'll go on down the line. So everybody get ready, because we're going to have some fun with the American media. Question in the air, especially if you're from Michigan. Anybody, any local reporters from Michigan? I guess maybe we got them all back there. Okay, they're on camera. Well, you'll catch on camera what I say. So we'll start with the person who's from Michigan but represents the national press.
Senator Kit with CNN. I'm representing the pool for today. I wanted to ask you, so some who want Trump to win in November, some who are Republican, they're urging the former president to do less personal attacks on Harris and focus more on messaging, more on policy. Do you agree with that?
Well, look, the question, I'm not going to repeat that question because it's kind of insulting to our president. So I'll repeat the ones that aren't insulting to our president. Look, here's the answer. To the people who say that Donald Trump should do something different, they had an opportunity to make Donald Trump do something different by challenging him over 3 separate primaries, every single one of which he won. So I think that Donald Trump has earned the right to run the campaign that he wants to run. And look, if you listen to what Donald J. Trump says, if you look at what I say, we are prosecuting the case against Kamala Harris on policy. We're reminding people that Donald Trump delivered peace and prosperity, and Kamala Harris has delivered war all over the world and unaffordable groceries and housing here at home. That is the message we're going to take forward. But of course, President Trump, the reason people love him is because he's his own man, he's unfiltered, and he lets the American people see who he is. And I will say that as his running mate, I obviously can't always speak for the president, but I think I speak for the president. I think I speak for the American people in saying this, that we'd much rather have an American president who is who he is, who's willing to offend us, who's willing to tell us the truth, who isn't a fake who hides behind a teleprompter, but lets the American people see exactly who he is. So that's my view. Ma'am.
From Ohio. Hi, I'm from Ohio.
Oh, that's not a good thing in this crowd. She's from Ohio, ladies and gentlemen. But I will say,
I have Michigan friends.
We love our country enough that you guys are willing to give this Buckeye a nice warm welcome. So thank you guys, and God bless you. Ma'am.
Senator Vance, thanks for taking my question. I'm Janice Heisel with the Epoch Times. And my question is, we do hear about costs of energy relating directly to grocery costs being up. What other steps besides drilling can the Trump-Vance administration take to lower those grocery prices for people?
That's right. Well, the first is we're going to fire the agriculture secretary, right? She's not doing a very good job. But look, a couple of things. First of all, drill baby drill is a big part of lowering the cost of the cost of food, because if you think about the farmers, that their tractors run on diesel fuel. To ship the food, they got to get it to go somewhere, and that requires fuel. The fertilizer, a lot of times, comes from natural gas. If we drill baby drill and take advantage of the incredible bounty of this nation, we are going to lower food prices in a very big way for American consumers. That's just a matter of fact. But the other thing that we ought to do is stop printing trillions of dollars that we don't have and sending it to China. We should keep our money right here at home. Build in America, buy in America, manufacture in America, and that gives Americans the wages necessary, but it also means that you're not printing a bunch of money, which makes our dollar more and more worthless. You do those two things, you can make food affordable again in this country. It's very simple. Right. Ma'am.
What do you have to say when people say Kamala has an advantage over the young people's vote because she is popular on social media and TikTok?
Well, look, I'd say the reason that Kamala Harris does a lot of social media, but we do a lot of social media too, but she doesn't have any ability to be unscripted. What is she going to do other than play around on TikTok? She sure as hell isn't giving interviews. She's not standing before the American people answering questions, right? Now, at least from what I've seen, President Trump and I have great presence all across social media. He just did an interview with Elon Musk on X that had hundreds of millions of American listeners. It sounds like a lot of people in the audience. So I think we're doing great on social media. But my message to young people, I mean, look, I'm the only millennial, the first millennial in the history of a national ticket. And my message to young people is we want you to be able to build a life in this country. If you work hard and play by the rules, we want you to be able to afford a house. We want to bring mortgage interest rates down so that you can actually get a loan to buy that house. We want you to be able to raise a family if you so choose without having it destroy your checking account. And we have got the policies to make that happen. So I think that Kamala Harris, assuming that she can run this filtered campaign hiding behind a teleprompter, young people are smart. And they know that life has gotten more unaffordable under Kamala Harris. And the final point that I'll make is Donald Trump and I believe that America ought to be tough and America ought to have a strong foreign policy. But when people like Kamala Harris send our sons and daughters, our young people, to fight in stupid wars, it is the young generation that carries the burden of that. We're going to stop sending our young people to faraway lands. We are not the policemen of the world. We need to use our young people here at home as the resources that they are and not send them all over the world. And I think that hopefully is a message that's going to appeal. We're going to carry it forward and we're going to see how the chips fall. But look, I feel very confident we're going to win young people. We're going to win the whole country. Sir.
The New York Times, I wanted to ask you about the latest economic news from this morning with inflation now being under 3%, the lowest rate since mid-2021. What is your sort of reaction to that news?
Well, I think the crowd reaction says it all. Look, when they say that inflation is down, they mean from a baseline where groceries are already 30% more expensive than they were when Donald Trump was president. And they're not saying it's coming down. They're just saying it's not going up as fast as it was 3 years ago. That is not a reputation or a record to brag on. That's a record to be ashamed of. Why did it take them so long to get inflation to where it is? And why are prices so high? It's because Kamala Harris failed to do her job. So if they want to go around, and this is, it's funny. Kamala Harris, on the one hand, will say, on day one, we're going to tackle the affordability crisis. And like I said earlier, Kamala Harris has been the vice president for 3.5 years. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, she's in effect been the acting president because we all know Joe Biden isn't home. So she's been the one controlling government policy for 3.5 years. She says she wants to tackle the affordability crisis on day one. And then on the other hand, she'll say, well, we've already got inflation under control. Well, which is it, Kamala? Which is it? The simple truth is America's credit card debt is getting higher. Americans are finding the basic necessities of middle-class life less affordable. Americans are becoming, especially young people, are becoming paupers in their own country. If we don't do better, our young generation, they're not going to own anything. They're not going to have anything. They're going to be renters in the country that their parents and grandparents built. Inflation is a disaster. Kamala Harris does not have a leg to stand on. Sir.
Thank you, Senator. Josh Albertus with WZZM here in Grand Rapids. In the last few cycles, we've seen a lot of people, based on the results of the election here in Kent County, describe Kent County as a lot more of a battleground than it used to be when it came to the era of Jerry Ford, for example. Contextualize, to what extent you believe the campaign is trying to put resources into Kent County specifically. What kind of narrowed that down?
Well, look, we love Kent County, and we think that it's going to be an important part of the election. But we think, look, the entire state of Michigan is important, right? There are areas in Michigan like Detroit where we're not going to do quite as well as we want to, but we're going to put as much resources as possible because we believe there are a lot of voters in Detroit who want to vote for Donald Trump and JD Vance. We just got to get them to the polls, and we're going to work hard for every vote. We believe there are rural parts of Michigan where we're going to win by 85%, but why not make it 90%? So we're going to work hard for every single vote all across the state of Michigan. I wouldn't say any one county is more or less important. The whole state is important because, look, there is no state that perfectly exemplifies what is broken about American policy in Washington. This was one of the wealthiest states in the entire country for pretty much the entirety of the post-World War II era. This is a state that had a proud manufacturing tradition where whether you went to college or graduated from high school or did something in the middle, you could build a middle-class life so long as you worked hard and played by the rules. And then thanks to a generation of failed leadership, Michigan has seen thousands of manufacturing jobs disappear. We have got to do better. And I think the reason you see Michigan, people used to call it a blue wall state. I think Michigan is a red wall state now because people are sick of losing their livelihoods and losing their jobs, and they know Donald J. Trump is going to be good for both. And I'll take two more questions here.
Yeah. Senator, yesterday on America Decides, and with CBS News, by the way, the UAW president said that Donald Trump and Elon Musk sneered at labor workers when talking about how Elon Musk fired folks looking to organize. The Teamster president, who also spoke at the RNC, called this economic terrorism. What's your reaction to the backlash that Donald Trump's getting from that interview?
Well, look, I like the Teamsters president. I think he's a good guy, but I think he's wrong about this because Donald Trump was not talking about firing Michigan auto workers. He was talking about firing the employees of Twitter who use their power to censor American citizens. Those people ought to be fired. If you censor Americans from exercising their First Amendment rights, you absolutely should be fired. Donald Trump's exactly right. Now, what Donald Trump has also done more than any president in my lifetime, again, 60,000 factories closed in the 16 years before Trump became president. In just the 4 years that he was president, he reversed that trend and opened 12,000 factories. This is a guy who's fighting for American jobs. And my message to Sean Fain, who's the head of the UAW and stands up next to Kamala Harris and sounds like a communist, is, trust me, I talk to a lot of UAW workers. They want a president who fights for their jobs. They want a president who will shut down this garbage at the border. They want a president who will stop sending American money to buy Chinese-made cars. American money ought to buy American cars. And UAW workers and non-union workers, we all believe in that message. That's why Donald J. Trump is going to win Michigan, and he's going to win the whole industrial Midwest. And we'll do one more question. Any other Michigan people, Taylor? Yes, sir.
Josh Berry, Fox 17.
Hey, Josh.
WXMI Grand Rapids.
All right, so we've got at least two good reporters here. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm rounding out the local journalists here. Look, this is a unique showing right here, taking questions from local journalists. Not necessarily, it's been unorthodox for a local rally like this. What are you hoping to show or say to voters, or is this a message to the Harris campaign, taking questions at a rally in front of people here?
Look, it's a message to everybody that if you want to be the American people's vice president, you ought to answer their questions and try to earn their vote. It's really that simple. You think about this, and I'm only 40 years old, but I've been in public life long enough to know that sometimes you need to explain certain things, or sometimes new things come up and you've got to answer people's questions. How are you going to address that issue, or how are you going to address this issue? You have got to stand before the American people and answer tough questions if you want to do this job. And it is scandalous that Kamala Harris is running from the media, but more importantly, she's running from the American people. That's a disgrace. I've never seen a presidential campaign in the history of my life where a person is asking to be the president of the United States, but she's afraid of you guys. Now, look, I'd say that some of you, I think, are perfectly fine journalists. Some of you, no offense, are fake news. But whatever your background in journalism, if you can't answer questions from the media, do you think you're going to be able to take on Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping? If you're afraid of answering before the American people, how can we possibly trust you to sit in a room with world leaders and represent the American people? What? And I think what it shows is fundamentally Kamala Harris has no vision. She has no policies. Go to her website. Ask yourself, what is it that Kamala Harris wants to do for this country? And the answer is she has no idea. None of us have any idea. What Kamala Harris is going to do for the American people is exactly what she's done for the last 3.5 years, which is fail. So we cannot give her a promotion. We've got to say, you are fired. God bless you all. Thank you so much for being here. Michigan, get out and vote. Get your friends and family to vote. Volunteer if you're able. I love you guys. I'll see you soon. We'll be back in Michigan quite a bit. God bless y'all.